Welcome to another edition of the official Catchup podcast. It's me, Ben, joined as always by Chris. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, all right. Keeping busy. It's obviously been a bit of a strange week. We never done a podcast last week, obviously mainly because of the Queen dying, and there was no football. There was obviously a lot of views on whether it should have went ahead and whatever else. But yeah, happy to be back for another week, Ben.
Obviously, it's Scottish Cup weekend for most of the teams in the Lowland League. In fact, all teams in the Lowland League were involved, along with a handful of West and East and South Scotland teams we normally cover. Of course, obviously Highland League teams and Midland Leagues, etc. as well. So we'll get straight into the Scottish Cup. We'll go through the results, and everyone loves me doing a full fixture list of results. We'll start on Friday. Open Goal Broomhill 3, Brora Rangers 2. That was after extra time. Pollock 6, Huntley 0, Syngenta 2, Auchinleck Talbot 4. On to Saturday, Greenfield Swifts 1, Brecon City 5, Darvel 8, Tynecastle 0, Bankside D 4, Turriff United 0, Benburb 4, Dundonald Bluebell 2, Cali Braves 6, Newton Stewart 1, Carnoustie Panmure 3, Rothes 1, Civil Service Strollers 1, Fraserburgh 2, Clydebank 1, Spartans 3, Cowdenbeath 0, Bonus United 1, Cumbernauld Colts 0, Dalbeattie Star 1, Devon Vale 2, East Kilbride 4, Dunbar United 3, Clackanicudden 2, that was after extra time. Dunnipace and Broxburn drew 1 each, and Dunnipace won 4-2 on penalties. Forest Mechanics 2, Glasgow Uni 3, For Martin United 3, East Stirlingshire 1, Galliferdine Rovers 1, Socket Juniors 4, Getting 2008 3, Edinburgh University 1, Hillabeath Hawthorn 3, Inverary Local Works 1, Keith 1, Cumnock Juniors 2, Cowan Rangers 4, Trent Juniors 2, Linlithgow Rose 2, Berwick Rangers 1, Lossiemouth 1, Buckie Thistle 2, Musselburgh Athletic 1, Newton Grange Start 2, that was after extra time, Nairn County 1, Drumchapel United 3, Strathspey Thistle 0, Camelin 5, Wick Academy 5, Lockheed United 1, and University of Stirling and Lothian Hutchinson Field will play today. So that's the results. Some interesting results there, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, just starting even off Friday night, Syngenta, Auchinleck Talbot. Syngenta obviously we've spoken out a fair bit about them, a really decent team, but class win for Auchinleck, got to say. I mean, the biggest surprise for me was probably Pollock beating Huntley 6-0. I mean, that is a fantastic result for Pollock. Usually when, in fairness, Huntley would have had to travel down, we all know that it was meant to be on BBC Scotland. It got kind of called off last minute, probably due to the Queen and everything else that's happening there. I mean, it's still a bit of a shocker. I mean, the BBC studio in Glasgow is just, five minutes down the road from Pollock, so you would think that they would have been able to put that on or at least change it to a Saturday. So, I mean, the Huntley and the Pollock boys didn't have to take the time off work or whatever would have happened, travel-wise. I don't know about the expenses, if they still got paid the amount that they should have, but, I mean, in terms of the result, I wouldn't expect Pollock to beat Huntley by as much. So they've done really, really well there to absolutely pump them, really,
I absolutely did. I genuinely thought Pollock would go out and absolutely dust Huntley. I had no doubts about it that Pollock were going to win that result.
As many as 6 though, Ben?
But so, maybe not quite 6, but I probably had it like maybe 3 or 4. No, I wasn't. I thought Pollock, good side, have started well, signed some good players this year. Kind of maybe started a bit poorly in the league, but I just thought the difference was going to be there between Pollock and Huntley, and that's what I felt when the game was put on TV. I thought to myself, like, that didn't feel like the game that should have been on telly for me.
Yeah,
I think that game was going to go that way, and I thought that nobody really wants to watch that if it is a neutral. Obviously, I've got a vested interest in the competition with Cowan and Rangers, and I genuinely felt that our game versus Trent would have been the game, the TV, or should have been the TV game. I think maybe because we had to have the replay against Rutherglen, maybe that didn't happen, but obviously our results are 4-2 from a 2-0. We'll come on to our game properly later, but we're 2-0 down and we come back 1-4-2. It was a classic Scottish Cup time. It would have been a much better product for the TV. In terms of the BBC, the stories I've heard and what I've heard from kind of some connections is that the equipment that used to broadcast the game just isn't in Glasgow just now.
All right, okay.
It's been used elsewhere. so they couldn't do it because they never had the equipment. It wasn't about people or things like that. The equipment's been moved around the country, whether it's Balmoral or Edinburgh or things like that in the last kind of few days, and I guess as well, probably from a people perspective, a lot of the people that I probably work in sport have moved on to working on things like news and other things in the BBC because of what's happened. So in the first few days of the Queen passing was probably quite frantic for people who work in the news and BBC and things like that. So I can see why the game is called off. I mean, in terms of the money, I'm pretty sure Pollock and Huntley will get the money that they were due, because I think you do get a payment for having the game on TV at these rounds. So I don't see why they wouldn't get the money, because they decided to pull it. I think there'll be contracts and things like that signed and agreed. So if they pulled out, then ultimately they would get the dough. So it's unfortunate for Pollock, but they had a full sellout crowd on Friday night anyway. So they've had a good turn at the gate, I'd imagine. So the only thing Pollock I think have the now problem is that their ground capacity is quite small. I think they've got kind of Glasgow City Council have given them a kind of a 900 capacity ground. I'm not too sure why. It feels to me a bigger ground than that, but so that probably hampers them a little bit in terms of the ground and what they're able to do. So yeah, fair play to Paul. Great result, great performance by all accounts. I've not actually seen the highlights yet, but I did see some stuff on sports scene results last night that covered the Pollock game a little bit, and they were talking quite highly of Pollock and the performance. I think I read somewhere on another vlog. It was a Darren Christie masterclass. So
your favourite guy? No, now any.
The fan club's been disbanded, shall we say? But fair play to Daz. He seems to have had a great game on Friday night. But we talked about the Auchinleck Talbot game. Great result for Auchinleck. Obviously, the league table, the tiers between the two are slightly different. But we know it's the Gent are probably a kind of a sleeping giant in the east of Scotland, because they are backed well and they're going to probably climb those leagues probably fairly quickly, I'd assume. So yeah, good results for both of them. I guess the other game Friday night, Chris was open goal versus Brora, 3-2 for Moses Boys. Open goal, Broomhill after extra time, and apparently 1,500 packed into Broadwood on a Friday night under the disco lights and all that stuff. I thought that was pretty impressive for a crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever recall Broadwood having disco lights, so I don't know. I actually made a comment. It's like, when did they get disco lights? I mean, I only thought it was Parkhead that had disco lights, but fair play.
They must have got the old ones from Parkhead.
Maybe. The crowd's fantastic, obviously, for this level of football. Going to extra time, Broomhill getting through really decent. Obviously, Moses chuffed. You'll be chuffed if you can get Broomhill in the next round. I know you're up for that, Ben. So yeah,
I'm keen for that. I think that'd be a good. I'd love to play. I've always wanted to play Broomhill because of obviously knowing Moses well. And
you want to beat Broomhill. You don't want to play them. You want to beat Broomhill. That's what you want to do. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Right. But I mean, it's interesting you say that, because we'll probably come on to the draw later on. But I'm kind of in two minds what I want in the draw now. I'm still trying to decide what I'd like to see happen for us. So, but let's move on to the games on Saturday. We'll start off with Darvel winning 8-0 against Tynecastle. I'll be honest, I didn't expect Darvel to put 8 past Tynecastle, if I'm being brutally honest on that one. I think that obviously we know Darvel are a great side and we know what they're capable of on their day, but from what I hear, the Tynecastle played well and were probably quite unfortunate to not get a few themselves. But I mean, putting 8 past anyone is a great result.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit different on that. I think I would expect them to beat Tynecastle heavily. Tynecastle are one of the higher rated East of Scotland sides, in fairness. I mean, Thomas Riley just signed and he's doing the business already. Alan McKenzie still seems to be in top form. Darren Miller, I don't know if you saw his goal gif, but I had a wee laugh at that. It was pretty hilarious. Darvel we keep talking about Darvel, but they're a top side. They could probably do that to most East of Scotland, West of Scotland, perhaps even some Lowland League teams as well. So that's how quality they are. But yeah,
but not Trinent.
Not Trinent, no. Well, we kind of go back to this. I know there was a lot of comments made.
Sorry.
There was a few comments made, obviously, about Trinent because they beat Darvel, and then the Buffs beat Trinent on Saturday. West is best and all this sort of patter, and
West is best part 2. That's
part 2. Yeah. It's a cup game. You have to look at some of the results. Some of the results sometimes are telling. For example, we mentioned Socky quite a lot. Socky, beat Gala Ferradine 4-1. To be fair, Gala are not having the best starts to the season. Socky are, we know, very much a team that loves the cup. So I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that result in terms of where levels are. But there are some times where you think, there is a golfing class there, and certainly Darvel should be, way higher up. We've said it many times. They could probably be playing in a League 2, a League 1 because of the quality of their squad.
I was having a bit of a joke about the Darvel Trinent. I think going back to that game, I think Darvel had a few players out with different things because when the game took place.
I'm hearing excuses, mate. Excuses.
For Darvel, yeah, I mean, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, fair dues. The Buffs won the game. Missing one of my best players and still won the match, So
do you want to talk about that then? Yeah, since we've alluded to it a few times now. Trinent were up 2-0 fairly early on. I thought it was probably curtains for yous, and then fairness came back in the game against a really decent Trinent side who have made a few signings recently. Obviously, in fairness to them, they're still probably getting to grips with their new manager, Colin Nish. So, yeah, how did it go, Ben? Were you a wee bit worried when you were 2-0 down?
Absolutely. I think the thing was that to lose the goal, the first goal we lose is an absolute screamer. Let's be honest, we mentioned earlier on. Yep. It's a worldly free kick from the edge of the box. It's a kind of clumsy, probably challenge from us in terms of to give away the free kick. There was kind of questions of whether or not it was a handball before it, but certainly from the fouls, it was a clumsy foul, and give away the boys just absolutely screamed it into the top bin. There's not much any goalie could have done with that. If I'm being brutally honest, it was Sean Rutherford, absolute screamer. 3 minutes later, it's like a soft penalty decision that goes against us. I've watched it back now, and I'm not convinced it was a penalty. At the time, I thought it probably was a penalty. The only debate I think I had at the time was whether or not the ball was actually out of play or not, because it was on the kind of touchline. But they've scored the penalty, went 2-0. It's inside maybe 20 minutes or something like that, and you start taking a fear. Certainly, I did. I feared the worst. And I was talking to a few folk who was kind of sitting around about and stuff like that. One of my mates and my video editor, Gaz, and his kid's first birthday, and he was kind of like, this goes 3, then I'm going home, rather spend it with my kid. And I thought, that's fair play. I think that's probably the right thing. Also, no way we're coming back from this. And then before you know it, we grabbed that goal, grabbed the first goal through Mark Lamont, and you go like, right, can we get the second one? And I felt if we can get it soon, we've got a chance. I think if we go in at half time 2-1, I think we maybe struggle a little bit more, but we get the goal, we get the penalty, potentially maybe getting levelled up there by the ref. I don't know. I felt it'd be a wee bit soft myself, but we go in at 2 each, and it's a different game then because we're coming out firing and we're up for it. And it looked like our players were really like on the front foot, and I just felt like Trinent collapsed. Like as soon as they lost the first goal, they went in their shell and turned in at the kind of side I've heard about before from other people, kind of starting to kind of bit of a kind of hatchet job and causing a lot of fouls and a couple of bookings here and there, and just felt like it wasn't the side I expected. I think the Trinent side that started, they didn't really do much apart from say getting the goals through those opportunities. And for us, it was just a case of grabbing that third goal and then we were able to control the match from there on in. We get the penalty in the middle of the second half, make it 4-2. Gives us a bit of a cushion, and we can go there and kind of keep the control of tempo. We had still a full bench at that point. Trinent had made 3 subs at half time, and maybe was probably the worst thing for them. Maybe disrupted the lineup a little bit, and we were just in control, and we saw the game out, did the job, and it was probably the best performance I've certainly seen from the Buffs since we've got the new manager and the whole new squad. So absolutely delighted to get through. Just a quick mention for the Trinent midfielder Ewan Gregg. He fell, took a really bad knee injury, got stretchered off, so really hope he's okay. I was sitting about 3 or 4 yards away from the touchline, and it looked a really bad one. He was in a real bad bit of pain there, and it was quite concerning, certainly from his perspective. So I hope he's okay. I think he left the ground in crutches, so I hope he's been seen to, and hopefully the damage isn't too bad, but it did feel the worst for him, certainly, so I hope he's okay. But yeah, it was a great occasion for us in terms of the Scottish Cup. It was an incredible day for the town, and I think crowd just under 300 for us, which is probably like an average home crowd for us, and it wasn't too many more people turned out for the Scottish Cup game, but we had the BBC was there covering the game, and we were on kind of sports scene and things like that, and did some pieces on the news on Friday night, Thursday night and stuff like that, which was great for the town and great for the club to, obviously we've came through the licensing process, and the Scottish Cup's kind of one of your rewards for playing in that competition, for doing all that, so it was great to be able to get through. Obviously, it draws at 6 o'clock tonight, so looking forward to seeing who we get. But yeah, I mean, absolutely delighted, but 100% feared the worst at 20 minutes in, and but we got there, we got the job done.
Yeah, Tranent, I always feel at Tranent, and there's a lot of teams like that they have to be leading or they panic. They have to be in charge of the game, or they're not comfortable, basically. And I think that's what we saw there. 2-0 up away from home in the Scottish Cup. You're thinking maybe it's going to be a bit easier, but yeah, it just sounds like they collapsed there. But I wouldn't worry. I mean, obviously a lot of West people, West is best and stuff like that. You'll probably get papped out of the Scottish Cup by the Lithgow Rose next round, I would think, for the Buffs.
Knowing my luck, I'm getting like Wick. I'm telling you, I've been saying it since the start of this competition. You're getting some like Wick Academy away or something like that, or Fraserburgh, one of these Bankside or something like that, 3-4 hour journey. I'm feeling it. I've got a funny feeling that, because I don't know what I want. Part of me wants one of the kind of lowland league sides, like maybe Dalbeattie or Gretna, which are kind of lower down the lowland league and maybe having a bit of trouble themselves. And I'd like to beat any lowland league team. It's an enjoyable experience, as we've obviously talked about the pyramid to death in this podcast, so I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but I obviously want to show the kind of the order of the pyramid and things like that by beating these sides. So I would quite fancy a team like that. Obviously, I mentioned Open Goal, wouldn't mind the occasion against Open Goal for the reasons I mentioned with Moza, and obviously they'll probably bring a big crowd. If you get a home tie, you probably find that there'll be Open Goal Broomhill or Open Goal watchers that will want to come down and maybe get the game on a Friday night, for example, and we can do what I've done and get a big massive crowd in. So yeah, I mean, absolutely great from our perspective. The draws at 6 o'clock tonight on YouTube, so I'll be watching that. I'm going for my dinner about 4 o'clock, so hopefully I'll be home in time for that to make sure I see it. So yeah, I mean, absolutely delighted. So moving on then from the mighty Buffs, we'll go on to a game that I think I was quite surprised the result was Benburb 4, Dundonald Bluebell 2. I thought Dundonald would beat Benburb personally. I've not seen an awful lot of Benburb this season, certainly, but from what I remember of Benburb, they haven't changed too much in the last couple of years. But I mean, great result for Benburb, and that's another case of the SFA licensing. A club that's went and got the licensing that are probably a Premier League team, really, obviously because of the way the relegation happened last year, but in the first division just now in the West, and they went away, got a license, and they've got the rewards, and they're also in the hat for round 2.
Yeah, that was a wee bit of a shock. I thought it'd be a bit closer. Dundonald, I wouldn't say they're struggling, but I think they're still trying to find their feet under Stephen Husband. They've got a lot of decent players there, but yeah, I think that was probably, in fairness, not so much an eye-opener, but one that I would find quite surprising. But then again, Benburb are a decent team, as you've said, in the first division of the West, and at the end of the day, Dundonald were having to go through West, and I think a lot of the times we've talked about it to death as well, with the likes of having to go up north or come east or go west. I think a home advantage in the Scottish Cup is a thing, in my opinion. I think especially you can be wary on the legs if you've just came off a bus, that you've been on for about 2-3 hours, So it's a difficult one for Dundonald, but in fairness, well done to Benburb. They've done exactly what they needed to do there and got the win.
Aye, absolutely. And it's another West team doing the job against the East team, so just adds to the West is best part, as I would say. For me, maybe I'm looking at a Lowland League side then. Civil Service Strollers 1, Fraserburgh 2. I guess probably two teams at similar levels in terms of tiers in the pyramid. Fraserburgh, decent side. I think they pushed it close last year in the Highland League. And certainly, Civil, we know they're a good side, but just Fraserburgh managing to edge it, Chris.
Yeah, Fraserburgh are always one of the sort of top Highland League sides. Going to Christy Girls Park's always a tough thing to do, but I think probably experience beat out Civil on the day, because although we always credit Strollers for having a decent side and whatnot, they have a fairly young squad of guys. So I would probably put that down to not so much quality but experience of the Fraserburgh team that have been in the Scottish Cup for years. So, well, in fairness, Strollers have as well, but there's probably less players in that Stroller side that have had these sort of occasions than Fraserburgh, that are probably used to doing well in the Scottish Cup, almost every season, representing the Highland League.
Next game then, probably a slightly surprising result was Clydebank 1, Spartans 3. I thought that game would have been much closer, but I think, to be fair to Clydebank, I think the goal came in the last couple of minutes of the match. Obviously, Clydebank letting the side down in the old West's best clean sweep. So that was certainly one for those. But I mean, Spartans, we obviously know them from the Lowland League and doing well, and it could have went either way as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, Clydebank will be disappointed. I think they've had a bit of a kind of rocky start. Probably feel a bit like ourselves in Conan, that like an up and down start and getting results and getting defeats when they probably was more surprised to lose. But obviously Clydebank had a fantastic Scottish Cup run last season, getting to, I think, round 4, I think it was. And, they'll be disappointed, but fair play to Spartans then. Good win for them.
Yeah, Spartans, I actually thought that game would be a lot closer. I know we said that certainly the third goal came towards the end. You're right, I think it goes on form as well. Clydebank, as you mentioned, they've not started the greatest. Spartans, a wee bit so-so as well in the Lowland League, so it's probably not what I would describe as like the bumper feel to that game that it might have been, in previous seasons, where it's two top teams. Both are kind of started so-so in the respective leagues. In fairness to Spartans, they have played some of the tougher sides in the Lowland League. But yeah, when I first looked at that fixture, I thought that's the game of the round. But then when I kind of thought about it and said, well, actually, these are two teams that aren't really on their best form, aren't really going to go all for it, basically. So yeah, it was one of those ones where fair play to Spartans and commiserations to Clydebank. But I think on a different day, these two teams on form, I think it would have been a lot closer, I think, in terms of the scoreline.
Next one then was Dalbeattie start getting a 1-0 win over Cumbernauld Colts. Obviously, we've talked about Dalbeattie plenty in our podcast. Had a really poor start in the league, but they've turned up in the cup and they've managed to pull off a 1-0 win, which is great for Dalbeattie, because we probably did kind of worry for Dalbeattie when it comes to the league. So they've got something like the cup to look at for a few, maybe a round or two. But Cumbernauld Colts will be disappointing because they started pretty decent in the Lowland League so far, and they'll be disappointed to lose to Dalbeattie, I'm sure.
Yeah, Colts have been on decent form lately. It was a surprise to me, but from all due respect to Jordan, it's a really great result for Dalbeattie. From what I've heard, obviously, Colts were probably not as clinical as we've seen them, but in fairness to the Star lads, they stayed resilient in terms of their defending. Really kind of held Colts, and that's exactly the type of thing they need to do if they want to stay in the Lowland League this season. They need to, be really good defensively. I think when I saw them against Beef, I was a wee bit critical of them, obviously. But in fairness, one of the things I did point out was that they were actually pretty decent defensively. Other than the goal that Beef scored. But yeah, they look like they have a wee bit of resilience, a wee bit of character there. They just need to start scoring more goals. It's maybe not the defence or how they're playing as much as if they concede a couple without scoring any, the heads probably drop. I think they just need more goals. I think they need unless they want to go and try and get 1-0 wins throughout every week. But in fairness to Derby, it's a good result, and hopefully it kickstarts them in the Lowland League. I've not seen the fixtures ahead. I don't know if what their schedule's like, but you hope that can inspire them to go out and get a few more results, especially in the league. Obviously, that being a cup game.
Yeah, I absolutely echo that in terms of the hopefully kickstart their season. But I mean, like I said before, wouldn't mind them in the next round with the cup. So I hope it doesn't kickstart their season too much in case we get them, because I would look like a right tip. A bit like the assistant manager of Trinent on Saturday, who politely reminded myself and one of my colleagues that it was 2-0 to Trinent 25 minutes in, because he was standing outside the technical area, shall we say. I forgot about that. I just was reminded of that by a text just there from someone. I forgot that. Yeah, the assistant manager, Stephen Hissler, was very quick.
Oh yeah, I know.
And then that came back to bite him on the arse. He also slagged my beard off, which I thought was quite upset about, which was quite.
Stephen Hissler, not a fan of the Catchup, then, is he?
Must not be. He must be another one of those people that I'm not a fan of the Catchup.
I was speaking about Civil earlier. I put a tweet out earlier, obviously, or last night, I should say. It's like we don't really get a total, red carpet response when we go to games now, do we, Ben? It used to be all like
when I come to games.
Used to be all in the committees. Here's a nice cup of tea and all this sort of stuff. When I used to go to games now, like no team bothers. It's like, it's you. Cheers for turning up. Whereas all these sort of one game a season guys are like, oh, brilliant! Here's a free beer. Here's this. Here's a cup. Here's a mug of our. Yeah, we get fuck all nowadays, don't we? I'm like, it doesn't really bother me. I like pointing out that, I mean, we probably do more for these leagues or players clubs than anyone else, but fair enough. That's I'm
not bitter, but is that is, Chris?
I'm not bitter, but I just pointing out all the time I took to advertise your teams and all this sort of stuff. 4 years, guys. 4 years we've been doing this.
Talking of one team who did welcome us to K Park a few weeks back was East Kilbride. They won 4-2 against Devon Vale. I watched the highlights this one earlier on. UK were brilliant. It was obviously probably a bit of a kind of ropey start for them, but they've got those class players into guys like Cammy Elliott, Ronan Hughes, just doing the business when you need them to, and that's what they're there for. And I'm not surprised that East Kilbride won and won well, because I don't know an awful lot about Devon Vale, but certainly not a team that they're putting another one of these teams that you see in the Cup all the time. You've seen them for years in the Scottish Cup, and but now obviously Lowland League sides are coming in that are getting their licences and stuff like that. So EK done well there in the next round. One team I absolutely want to avoid if I'm looking at the draw.
Well, it was a bit of a shaky ending as well, because it did look like Devon Vale might have a chance to get into it, because obviously East Kilbride did go down to 10 men, but somehow they've scored another couple of goals. And one guy we've not really talked about, Cammy Elliott, seems to be the main guy up front, but Rhys Maguire, the young. Yeah, he seems to be doing fantastically well this season. So Cammy Elliott, Saint Cammy as we call him, always gets the credit, to be fair. But Rhys Maguire, he's in amongst the goals too. Big Yao, I don't know. I don't really see a lot of Yao Victoria coming in amongst the goals for EK. I don't know if he's maybe playing a wee bit deeper with Cammy coming up and Rhys coming up. But still fantastic. We know East Kilbride's quality. Not surprised to see them get the win there, but when I did see they went down to 10 men, I was kind of like, are they going to hold on? But they went on, scored another couple of goals, so they were fine.
Next game then we'll look at is probably going to Glasgow Uni, winning 3-2 against Forest Mechanics. Not a great result for Mark Adams.
An amazing result. I listened to Mark's interview a few weeks ago where he was kind of bemoaning the fact that there was a few lads on holiday, and he said we're going to stop that basically, because this is a decent level of football. If you want to play, you have to be committed, and that is Mark all over really. Mark loves the Scottish Cup, so it's not surprising them to see his team do well. But yeah, it's a fantastic result of the round for me to go up to the Highlands and pull a win for a team like Glasgow Uni. That I probably wasn't expecting them to get the result there. In fairness, I don't think other people were either. But yeah, the pictures and Mark, overjoyed for them, really. Fantastic result. I'm sure they'll be looking forward to the next round. Another Highland team, another scalp would be great for the boys in the West. So we'll wait and see. Again, if Stirling Uni get through, a Stirling Uni Glasgow Uni derby would be pretty cool.
The Uni derby.
Yep.
East versus West Uni derby. We could have it. Imagine that one. That would be an interesting one. Next one then for Martin United 3, East Stirlingshire 1. Shire having a bit of a time, kind of up and down. They'll be disappointed to lose that against Hull Martin. But for Martin, probably no mugs in terms of the Scottish Cup. They put out Cumnock last season and their first foray in the Scottish Cup last year. So, yeah, fair play for Martin. But the Shire, I think, it's very, very up and down at the moment.
Yeah, I can't even remember the last time they've had a really good Scottish Cup run, East Stirlingshire. So I think history plays a part in it as well, because I know we highlight the likes of Clydebank and Auchinleck, Sauchie, and some Lowland League teams that have done well in the Scottish Cup. But there is Highland League teams that obviously usually get to the second and third rounds. So yeah, it's difficult, especially again, it goes down to travel. Not to take any credit away from the Highland teams that get through. In fairness, I probably know a lot less than I do about the other teams we speak about. So, but I do think travel is a factor in terms of if you're home or away in the Scottish Cup. I think it could be a massive factor. But then we have seen boys, obviously, previously, not even just in the Scottish Cup, but the South Challenge and stuff, get a wee bit of a good spirit on the bus there and back. So I mean that. It depends. It's all about positivity and believing in yourself and going out and getting the result. But then there is sometimes when you're travelling. I've been on buses myself where it's like, it's a bit of too much, an hour or two travel, and you just can't really be bothered when you get there.
Well, that's it. I think when we're looking at the draw, I think the Sun kind of worked out the teams, and I think the furthest you can go is Wick Academy, which is like, for us, it's like 6 hours from Colwyn into Wick. Bucky's, I think maybe 4 hours. Fraserburgh maybe 3.5. So there's a lot of long trips there for us potentially. And that's the ones that, as you say, you want to avoid that, because
get a hotel
up the same day. Yeah, I mean that's probably the right thing to do in terms of kind of investment in the competition, and get the hotel and. But I mean, I'm not in charge of the purse strings at Colwyn.
We slagged off Darvel for it. Was it last season or the season before? Because it was like a big 6-star hotel or whatever it is. But I do believe there was some teams that travelled up the day before.
Right, I was saying that though, like if we were going up to like a Wick or I don't know, say like a for Martin or one of these kind of teams in Bucky Thistle, then I'm 100% probably making a weekend of it at that point.
Oh yeah,
probably going up on the Friday, come back on the Sunday, and making a whole weekend of it for sure. It's I'm off work the week before the next round, so I'll be making a wee pit stop somewhere. Probably break the journey up halfway or something. But yeah, you don't want to be travelling too much on, especially in the morning. If you're kind of travelling up in the morning of a game, and you're nothing worse than a 3-4 hour bus journey, then having to get off the bus and try and play some football and try to get a result. But yeah, it'll be interesting. There could be potentially, there's still quite a few. I think I worked out there's maybe 4 or 5 teams up there that are still involved that would force a kind of longer journey for most of the West teams, and we certainly would want to avoid that just now. And yeah, hopefully we'll dodge it. I'll take anyone at home, really. So the home draw is what you want until, let's be honest. Right, moving on then to the next game we talk about. Garfield Rovers 1, Sauchie Juniors 4. Chris, you touched on it earlier. Fantastic result for Sauchie. Gala, a bit of a trouble start and out in our competition.
they were facing a Gala side that's been struggling, in fairness. I think the biggest, not to take anything away from Socky, but the biggest news story there is obviously Zander Murray, the Gala forward, coming out announcing that he is gay, the first Scottish senior player to do so. Very proud of Zander. I'm not going to lie, I messaged him this morning. I don't think he'll mind me saying. Privately, obviously, just kind of reaffirming our positions, that we're not going to treat them any differently, because in this day and age, I don't think it really matters if someone's gay or not. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, it's not a big deal. Why is this such a big deal?" I think in wider society, it's not a big deal, but the fact that he is the first Scottish senior footballer to come out as gay, or certainly the male, I should say as well, because there's a lot of same-sex relationships in women's football. So it's almost like night and day, like in men's compared to women's football, with people that are known to be gay. But there is a stigma, I think, still to it. I think it's still very brave. I don't know if you'd be worried about maybe fans taking the piss or other players taking the piss, because we do know that these sort of, psychologically, it doesn't matter if it's, if it's about gay or race or whatever. It could be, Cammy Russell got slagged for his haircut, apparently. So it could be anything. Like, fans are willing to do that, or players are willing to do that. So there's probably a wee bit of a concern there for Zander. But reading his story, I hope it inspires others to be themselves and happily come out. I have invited Zander on to the show, so hopefully he'll come onto the show. He's obviously very busy with the likes of Sky Sports and media outlets that are much bigger than ours, Ben, in the next few days.
The big time people.
Yeah, the big time people. So I know Zander obviously very well, because I've praised him enough in terms of his goal scoring in the past. His goal against Socky was the 100th goal we scored for Gala. Unfortunately, it wasn't a winning goal, but hopefully Zander will be on the podcast very soon, so he can tell his story to people that don't know it. But in the meantime, obviously, get yourself on the Gala website. There's probably a million stories now about him coming out. But yeah, very proud of Zander. He's not going to be treated any differently in terms of how we judge players. I think that's important. I only ever judge people on their football. We had a wee mini conversation a couple of weeks ago, I think, about people's nationalities. I think I said at the time, I don't care if people are English or Welsh or whatever. If they're not Scottish, it doesn't matter to me. I judge them the same, and that's basically based on football, you know what I mean? So,
no, absolutely echo that in terms of very well done to Zander, and he's able to own that and be proud of that fact. So I say very well done, and we hope that fans and opponents or whatever and matches just do the same, treat them the same, and don't give them that abuse. But we know what society can be like at times. And would be disappointed if that did happen. So hopefully it doesn't. We can think better of everyone. But as I say, who knows what will happen? But fair play to him. He's still a great footballer, and he's scored, as you mentioned there, his 100th goal, and he's still doing it for Gala. But unfortunate for them on the day to lose to Socky. But we've always talked about Socky being a great side in the cup, and they've continued that form from their league start as well. So fair play to them. Moving on then, Gretna 2008 3, Edinburgh Uni 1. We've talked a lot about Gretna over the course of the season, and I know my feelings have been pretty honest about Gretna and their form and what I expect from them. But yeah, great result for them in terms of getting through the next round. It'll be good for them. Again, probably another one of those things that's something they can focus on, because league-wise they seem to be toiling at the moment. Who knows what will happen there? But in the second round, Edinburgh Uni but they'd have felt going into that game that they could beat Edinburgh Uni, certainly from Gretna's perspective. Edinburgh Uni probably thought the same about Gretna, so it was probably one of those games that was probably on a knife edge in terms of who are turned up in the day, and it looks like it was Gretna. So great result for them. I was having a bit of a banner with Johnny Needham this last night on Twitter, and saying how I look forward to getting Gretna in the next round. Like I said earlier, keen to beat Lowland League side. So if we could have maybe Gretna or Dalby in the next round, that'd be quite nice.
Yeah, Edinburgh Uni. I mean, we praised them to the hilt when they beat East Kilbride. Obviously, a fantastic result. But yeah, it's one of those ones. I think there's the issue with a lot of the what I like to think of like the sort of bottom end of the league sides are they're inconsistent. On a different day, I think you're right. Edinburgh Uni could have beaten Gretna, but Gretna, from what I've heard, by all accounts, were on their game, and it could have been more than 3 from what I've heard as well. So fair play on to the next round. But they need to start doing it in the league as well. It's similar with Dalby. They need to start doing it in the league. One cup result, 2 cup results. You don't want to be remembered for that. You want to be remembered for being a really good league side.
Next game then is Linlithgow Rose 2, Berwick Rangers 1. Berwick Rangers maybe focus on the league a bit more then, by the looks of it.
Yeah, it was always going to be tough against Linlithgow Rose. One thing I've not really got about Berwick, and I think it's been brought up a few times, is Kieran Heaps getting released, who looked like a really good, decent young player. Not sure what's happened there, but he got released recently. Don't really know what's going on with Berwick in terms of that. In fairness, we've mentioned Linlithgow Rose, we've mentioned Mark Stowe about 1 million times on this podcast this season already. Linlithgow are a team I would expect they could probably beat the higher end Lowland League sides. I'd like to see them against East Kilbride actually. If I'm not gonna lie, them against East Kilbride would be some game. Two top sides. I actually thought Linlithgow would run away with the game after Berwick went down, but they got back into the game, and I think it was a sort of last few minute goal by Linlithgow. It's one of those ones where it's like they'll be disappointed to be out, but again, there's a weird relationship with the cups, in my opinion, with Berwick. It's like, I don't know so much if it counts to the Scottish Cup, but certainly the South Challenge and cups like that, they don't seem to really want to be involved in. It's probably a wee bit different with the Scottish Cup because obviously you get money from it. So yeah, fair play to Linlithgow Rose. They're a team that can beat anyone on their day, in my opinion. And yeah, it's not a massive shock that they've got past a Berwick side that have been a wee bit iffy since the start of the season.
Yeah, Linlithgow Rose have always been a good cup side when it came to the kind of junior cup and things like that from memory. So it's no great shocks that they've turned up and turned over Berwick there. And the Scottish Cup, I won't get into my senior Scottish Cup debate that I've had on Twitter this week.
I saw it again. We didn't even have a podcast last week, mate, and you're still making enemies, eh? I was speaking to the Cumnock boy. I was speaking to the Cumnock boy, and I was like, apologies for him, mate. So.
I know the guys at Cumnock, all right. I think I'm not too sure who does the Twitter, but certainly, it's one of those ones. I mean, if you know, like some of the guys I work with at the club and talk about me and my kind of ideas about, or not my ideas, my thoughts on kind of branding and professionalism and how you do things and to a certain standard and stuff like that. And like the thing I think about is that the Scottish Cup is the Scottish Cup. There's no like people at like Stenhouse Muir aren't calling the Scottish Cup the Senior Scottish Cup, for example, right? It's the Scottish Cup and the Junior Scottish Cup, as far as I'm concerned. And like I'm just a bit of back and forth about the fact that they refer to the Senior Scottish Cup. It's just something that boils my piss a little bit when people say it, like the big Scottish Cup or the Senior Scottish Cup. It's just pure. It reeks of pure junior football. And
you know what's pissing me off lately, actually, because a lot of people forget. I used to do media, obviously, for Kelty, Twitter wise. But what's annoying me is this, and it's almost every team now that does it. Opposition's number 9 scores or fucking. It's like, just say, yeah, that really annoys me. It's like you've probably got a team sheet. It didn't matter who was playing against Kelty. I would say whoever it was, like if it was Kieran Magaki for Bonnyrigg, Kieran Magaki gets Bonnyrigg. I mean, there's a way of doing it. You don't have to say number 9 or fucking whatever else. I noticed Broomhill done that on Friday, but it seems to be every team that does that now. Opposition's number 9 gets a yellow card or something. It's like, fucking say their names, eh?
Oh, Chris, I'm going to come in there on the defend the media union on that one, because I think sometimes, certainly in my experiences, you don't always get a team sheet from the opposition. Well, that's traded between secretaries or handed to the referee and then handed to the manager or what happens. But you sometimes have to go chasing it. Some clubs are better than others. You certainly, some of the guys in the West that I know because I know them personally, you talk to each other before the game and make sure, oh, you send me your team, I'll send you mine, and things like that. That works out quite well. But other times you just find that you don't get it. And if you've got for a stadium announcer, for example, and you want to read the team lines out before the match, it's not always perfect to work that way. So I think that's the thing about that some teams post that because they just don't know the information or don't have information to hand. Personally, I wouldn't bother posting team opposition updates like that if I didn't have the team sheet in the first place. I just would focus on my own team and not bother about it because quite often the opposition score it. At Buffs Park, for example, I wouldn't put who scored for the opposition on my Twitter and Facebook and things like that, just because I don't have the knowledge of the players. Sometimes I would know who the player was if it's more of a West game, but like for example, I didn't realise it was Sean Rutherford that had banged in that sort of screamer until I think I got home actually that on Saturday night. So I think that's sometimes the case.
Yeah, I think it's maybe just frustrating for someone like me that does look into like stats and wants to know who's done what basically in games. But I think, I just feel that there's probably been a wee bit of a decline over the last sort of couple of years. I don't know if it's just been due to the sort of lockdown. Most teams were kind of at their highest in terms of their media production or whatever you want to call it. Now it's kind of went downhill again. And I don't think it's acceptable. Sorry to say. I mean, in terms of team sheets, I think they should be available every game. But like I've had to take pictures of the referee's sheet and go into dressing rooms to take a picture of what the gaffers put on the board. So I completely respect that, and I do realise that a lot of the time it is volunteers as well. But yeah, if we're wanting to be at the same standard as the SPFL or whatever it would be, we need to do better, in my opinion. Our clubs certainly need to do better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for improvements, but I guess on your point about things kind of going downhill, I guess that's maybe true for things like that. But there's other things you're seeing from clubs, more clubs stepping up in terms of media, and you're seeing a lot of decent output and better quality output in other places from some clubs. So it's not all bad in the media front, certainly. Two more games in to cover off on the Scottish Cup fixture card. It was Newton Grange Star 2, Musselburgh Athletic 1. That was after extra time. Must have been quite a tight game, Chris.
Yeah, that game had pretty much everything. Newton Grange had nine men at the time. They had 2 players sent off over the penalty decision, which obviously Aaron Murray went up and missed it. So Musselburgh had a player sent off. It was all basically kicking off, but what a fantastic result for Newton Grange, who have lost a lot of key players. They're no longer obviously in the Premier Division against a Musselburgh team that is. So yeah, that seemed like an absolute what you would expect from a cup tie. Absolute scenes for Nitton to hold on there and get the win. Liam McIntosh with a winner in extra time. Fair play to Nitton. It's a team that I like, a team that I always praise because of their ground. That one was at Musselburgh, which is a tough place to go sometimes. And Musselburgh, it's a tough one for them, obviously, the result. But yeah, I wish I went to that game. Actually, it seemed like one of the more exciting games in the cup, I guess, this weekend.
Final game then we're going to cover is Nairn County 1, Drumchapel United 3. Great result for Drumchapel and our West team doing the business in the first round of the Scottish Cup. Drumchapel, obviously, an unlicensed team that won by winning the Strathclyde Demolition Cup last season. So they've had the draw's been quite kind to them, and they've managed to get through 2 rounds. They'll obviously be looking forward to the draw. Going about their business quite well, I think, as well. Drumchapel and the league, and guys like teams like David Templeton's actually playing for Drumchapel at the moment. I always thought that was going to be a bit of a signing parade, and maybe not fit, but it seems like he's doing the job now for Drumchapel.
Yeah, I actually expect them to do a wee bit better in the league. I know we're only a few games in, but they do have a good team, Drumchapel. But yeah, I think they have to pick up when they're up against better teams. I think they do need to pick up in terms of where they are in the league. I don't think they're they're way up there. I don't think they've been defeated yet, but it's 2 draws. I would expect them a wee bit like the likes of St Cadix to pretty much win every game. I know that's easier said than done, but they're one of the teams I would expect to be doing a wee bit better, albeit it is still really early on in the season.
Mentioned St Cadix, the bank of St Cadix is well and truly open as he signed Ryan Thompson from Darvel during the week there. Great signing for them, but they're absolutely splashing the door right enough at St Cadix. Moving on then to the West Scotland Prem, there's a few games that took place in the Premier League. Atherley 0, Cambuslang Rangers 3, B Juniors 0, Kirkintilloch Rob Roy 3, Glenafton Athletic 0, Troon 1, Hartford United 2, Lags Thistle 2. So I think the one that stands out for me is the Rob Roy result. I think 3-0 against B is a great result away from home for Rob Roy. Maxie is doing a great job. Stuart Maxwell's done a great job up at Rob Roy so far. Start of the season with 3 wins and a draw and 1 loss, sitting second behind Hurlford. Obviously, there's a few West teams there that have only played maybe 2 or 3 or 4 games in the league and got some games to catch up on now. So it's certainly a good start for Rob Roy, a team that done well last year, and obviously they stayed up in that. They were kind of in between that kind of relegation dogfight of the 7-team drop, but managed to survive and stay up, and they'll come out of traps absolutely flying in the league, and great result for them. B, they'll be disappointed. Obviously, Christian come in there, great manager, but probably would have fancied himself given the form they were in, but not quite able to do it at home. And say Rob Roy's just sitting there nicely in second place. Well, else in a few games across the west of Scotland. Probably one we can touch on in the 3rd division. East Kilbride Thistle 2, Carluke Rovers 0. There's obviously been a bit of turmoil at East Kilbride East Kilbride Thistle certainly in the last few weeks. Manager Gary O'Hanlon has been relieved of his duties, shall we say, and there's been a bit of controversy and a bit of animosity off the back of that. I've seen the latest episode is that the Twitter account for EK Thistle had been deleted at the weekend, and there's been allegations of snakery involved and things like that as well, and it's all a bit dramatic at the moment over at East Kilbride Thistle, Chris.
Yeah, I'm sorry to laugh, but I mean, deleting the club's Twitter is just so petty.
Petty, very petty.
Well, we've heard different things. I mean, I think at the time when Gary got the call that he was relieved of his duties, I was a wee bit shocked. I know they've not really Thistle haven't really started that great, but I mean, it's so early into the season. Obviously, the accusations going about. I don't know the full story, and it's not my business to bother about internal club stuff. But I mean, I think it's what people are referring to, or what people have heard, of probably the fact that Gary's been done out the job by someone else. I think that's what the suggestion is, and but we don't know. I mean, it's kind of, it seems like it's everyone's opinions without maybe not knowing the facts, and I certainly wouldn't want to speak on it without knowing the facts. And we're old enough and wise enough to know that there's always one person's opinion, another person's opinion, and then the truth. So I just think it's a bit a difficult situation at East Kilbride, but they did get their win, as you mentioned, against Carluke. In fairness, I think Carluke are quite near the bottom, so it's not an eye-opening one. Aaron Connolly, obviously, who we know quite well, is sort of interim manager at the moment. There was an article basically to say that he wasn't sure if he'll take up management, which a lot of people are obviously not sure if they agree with that. Kind of hinting that he wanted the job to begin with, but again, we don't know. We're only speculating at this point. But yeah, going back to the point, I think it was a wee bit surprising to see Gary will leave that early into the season.
I guess the thing about EK is that it looked like they've spent a bit of money in the 3rd division this year in terms of the players they brought in. So maybe that's maybe had an effect on the the committee or the ownership situation at EK Thistle, that they have chucked a bit of dough at it, probably to try and get out of the third division quite quickly, and it's maybe not worked as well as they'd hoped for, and they probably were hoping to be way out in front. That squad should be kind of way out in front as far as I'm concerned. In that division, there's not a lot of great teams in the third division, and that's probably what the cause is there in terms of Gary being, say, kind of relieved. I guess he was sacked, wasn't he? So we can say that, but yeah, I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of kind of, as you say, kind of suggestion about different things and rumour and all that. I'm not going to lower myself to comment too much on that, but it's certainly I'll be one to keep an eye on, because I think there'll be more that will come out in the wash. There's certainly been already some stuff on Twitter, and but yeah, go back to the point about the Twitter account being deleted. That is that kind of shithousery is petty, man. I know you can be better and stuff like that, but don't delete somebody's Twitter. Again, standing by the media union here, and that's a poor play in terms of if you're a score.
I laugh because of the pettiness of it. Yeah, I laugh because of the pettiness of it. To be honest with you, Ben, I thought it was just. That is ultimate. Yeah,
it's like getting back your ex in it. It's like, what are you doing? Just relax, man. Just go away. Make a statement if you want to make a statement, but don't delete the Twitter, man. That's a bit too far. But that's pretty much it then from us on the official Catchup podcast for another week. Chris, where do we find ourselves if you want to get in touch, or if you want to make sure you do all the likes and subscribes, etc.?
At official Catchup on Twitter, Lowland League Catchup on Facebook, and you can pretty much Google us everywhere else, or we're, as I keep saying, we're on everything pretty much. Internet Movie Database, IMDb, for whatever reason. I don't know who's created that page. Only discovered that. Yeah, I only discovered that a few weeks ago. I was like, what the hell is this? I don't know if it's just automatically created because we've been around long enough or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's.
Do they have a thing that says Ben Grant as himself on
No, I think if we wanted all that sort of stuff, I think we would have to sign up to IMDb. But it looks like it's literally the episodes we post. So basically, when we post this, it will come up like episode whatever it will be, and then yeah, it's a bit weird. I guess we've just been around long enough, or someone's submitted us for whatever reason. I don't know.
We're big time enough to be on IMDb. There we go.
We need to get some trivia going though, Ben. We need to add wee trivia facts like, oh, Ben was really sick this day. Chris, blah blah blah. I don't know.
That's Ben's list of hated clubs, arms and legs, and IMDb. The latest one being Cumnock, probably. So, well, I had beef with Cumnock in the past. They're probably back to haunt me, but if you want to get in touch with me, I'm Mr. Ben Grant. As I say, if you do want to start a beef or get in touch, then that's the place to do it on Twitter. But that's all from us this week. As I say, on the official Catchup. We'll be back, I'm sure, next weekend. But remember, as always, West is best, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.